So I'm really happy to welcome to the show today Gerd Leonhard. He's very, very well known in the industry as a media futurist. He's the author of a number of books and blog posts and articles about the future of media, as well as being a very sought-after speaker at a conference pretty much everywhere. So hi, Gerd, and thanks for making it onto the show.
Hello, happy to talk.
So let's talk about mobile first. You know, everybody's talking about mobile. There's a ton of mobile companies at the Micropayments Labs conference. So what do you think about mobile apps and mobile access? Is the app going to be the way forward, or do you think that in-browser app delivery might still have a case?
Yeah, that's being widely debated now, but it's not really an important question, because what's really more important is that mobile's becoming the primary way of consumption, portability of music and of other media, reading and videos, and there's 4.5 billion people having it. Yeah. And that creates entirely different universe of possibilities. You know, it's what I call the access economy. People accessing stuff, clicking on links. And as soon as everybody's connected to the cloud, it becomes a huge generator of possibilities for branding, for product placement, for advertising, of course, for all of the support that music needs.
Yeah.
So that is very important. I think apps will always be interesting because it's proprietary, like a CD. Right? You could argue that a good app is like a CD or like a DVD, which is nice. But I think this will exist in parallel to the open web. The open web can't be beat ultimately because of its uniqueness that it works everywhere in the same way. So HTML5, HTML6 will definitely add value there. It's not an either or. I think it can very well have both.
And you think the content industry is starting to fully understand the extent in which the mobile is going to change the way they do business or not?
No, I mean the content industry is always looking to sell copies. You know, they want to sell paper, which is news, or they want to sell plastic, which is music or downloads. They have to go a far way to understand that what you're selling here is packaging, it's curation, it's design, it's context, it's the users, it's all the upselling. You know, and that's a whole different economy that's not based on copies. So as soon as they embrace that and forget about this idea of just selling whatever they used to sell, right? Yeah. And move on, then it's really going to open up.
And in relation to this and the mobile space, location services is something a lot of people are talking about here in Medium. And you have companies like Foursquare that are operating, on a quite large scale. You have Facebook Places as well. And you've got companies that are also doing it just for music, like Float, for example. So where do you see location-based services fitting in this space? And do you think that somebody like Foursquare can actually deliver a good experience for music fans?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think location is really important when it's about voluntary tribalizing. You want to belong to a tribe, so you meet up whenever you can, and that's really powerful. But it's a huge behavioral shift among the major part of the population, not so much the kids or so, especially Asian kids, right, or Americans for that matter. But it's a huge habit shift of broadcasting yourself in this way. I think that will take some time for people to embrace. And the benefit of broadcasting yourself is not apparent to the ones who don't do it. So it will be a few years. I think that location-based services will be a huge source of social commerce. For music, it will be fantastic because you can locate each other, you can send stuff back and forth. But if the problem with music is that when you're connecting and you're showing each other music, then every time you click, you get to a paywall, then it's not going to happen. So it's sort of related to, if the access is legal and bundled and easy, then the social also makes sense, which is also when location makes sense.
Yeah. Talking about physical CDs, Mark Mulligan the other day said that the CD is like the music industry's heroin. So do you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's completely distorted the view. And it's also brought in most of the major players in the music market. They just came in because the margin is so huge on CDs. Yes. So it has nothing to do with music. I mean, they may as well sell cars if it was this, and they do, of course, right? or whiskey, like Seagram's and Warner. So I think basically to get off this artificial thinking of huge profits for little doing, that is crucial. And there's companies like Network Records and smaller independents and beggars and stuff. That's what they're doing. Right? They're creating a new economy of value that has nothing to do with the copy. So we're sort of enslaved in this thinking like, we sell units, which is the most ridiculous way of looking at content in a digital world, because we sell engagement, right? And that money is so much bigger.
Yeah. And then a lot of startups, as well as the Micropayments Labs and the Hack Day that is going on right now, actually, they're showing that the experience is really key to the users actually wanting to engage with the music. So is there a startup or two startups that really caught your eyes here at Medium that you may not have heard about before?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that many startups here, but the music-specific stuff. I'm working with a company in Russia, which I think is going to really change the way things work in Russia, which is a tough market. It's called Zvuk, ZVOOQ, and they're going to bring legal bundled music to Russia, which is huge. And they also own a thing called Bookmate, which will do it for books.
Yeah.
So I really like the sort of really disruptive stuff. I still like old standbys like Sonic Bits and others that are doing this. I think that all of the cool stuff will happen from outsiders, and it is happening from outsiders. And we need to embrace that and bring it inside and just give it room, like has been happening for the first time here at Meetup.
Yeah. And artists now have like a huge amount of opportunities in terms of distribution, doing stuff themselves, but the key part that is still missing, that comes from the record label usually, is funding. So how do you think the future of funding is going to go? Do you think it's going to be crowdsourced? Do you think there's going to be other type of media conglomerates to step in to finance artists?
Well, as I would say, it depends, right? I mean, I think there's artists that can do really well in crowdsourcing. I'd be scared to do it myself for my books because of the process, of sort of setting you up potentially for financial disappointment. Yeah. But I think that it's a mixed process. So the labels and publishers and the music companies, media companies, they will always be needed for this process because they have to believe in an artist and do it before he's big. So that's the funding, that's the grooming, the production, the hand-holding. You need that, right? But you're not going to get 90% of the money for that. So the funding can go in like a dozen different ways. So you can do crowdfunding, you can get a brand to sponsor you like they do in Brazil or in China. You can get an advance from the bank and just try it, or you can get a loan, a microloan. I mean, there's all different ways of doing it. I think this model of saying that the only way to get big is to sign with a big label that owns all of it, of course, that's over. Yeah. So it's a much more fragmented model. Yeah,
and it was interesting to talk to Dave Cusack and Panos, because you understand that the expectations of people getting into music, both as students and as aspiring musicians, have completely shifted now. I mean, they all understand that it's not going to be the way it was.
Well, we're living in such a noisy world, that anybody who has a really powerful brand, whether it's a guru or a car company or a music or a musician, can get their audience and can groom it and basically grow something out of that brand awareness, right? Yeah. So whether you're Nespresso or an artist or John Mayer, it's the same principle there. And that is a really powerful thing that the web is doing. So I can imagine easily having a brand on Facebook where I commercialize what I do, and having a Facebook app that commercialize and sells stuff for me. Right? That's definitely coming, and that's, to me, I think that is it's a very good trend.
What do you think of the Music Unlimited service that was launched by Sony along with the four majors? Do you think there's something good in there?
Yes, I have to compliment them on trying. To me, I'm a little bit, of course, I'm suspicious of it because, the terms of the users, what the user really wants, and this is a global thing pretty much, is quite clear. Yeah. Unlimited, feels like free, download, stream, ad support, upselling, premium. They're okay with that. They're not okay with just flat out paying. And the tendency of most of the services has been to force the user into different behaviors, which they're not going to do. So my view is, if they give the user what the user really wants, and if they face that reality, and then I think they'll be very successful. I think proprietary services and those kind of platforms will not be so easy to do. It's possible, but it's not. To me, it would seem very risky and lots of investment. Yeah.
And something that involves the whole of the media industry is a system of micropayments. So how do you see that going forward? Do you think that it's finally going to crack this year?
Yes, well, this process is driven by the unbanked, the people without banks. In Western countries we have all that stuff already, so we're already paying, and there's lots of money being made. So that will be hard to get the micropayment in there. This will happen in Russia, India, Brazil, China. I will pay with my mobile. I will pay in a micropayment process, and all Africans most of them don't have banks. So that will probably go there first, and then come retroactively back to the US and to Europe. It's a cultural question. Whether you have real money or, I would be just fine with virtual money, but that is a cultural question, and any cultural change really is subject to all kinds of what ifs, right? But clearly, micropayments will be huge in all the developing countries. It will be huge everywhere, but it will take a little bit longer here. Yeah.
And in terms of the generation that is not used to actually owning any music. Do you think that we're going to see, like in 10 years' time, a generation of 15 to 25, 26 years old that doesn't actually own any music or any content whatsoever, really?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot more drastic than that. We're not going to own our cars. We're going to share cars, and we're already doing that and sharing bicycles. We're going to share a lot of things, including development of resources, cancer research. A lot of these things are going to a sharing economy, which basically means that if you can access it and use it, you don't have to own it. If you do want to own it, then you're prepared for a premium. So yes, I will have my book collection, my library. It looks good. I like the feel of it, but it's going to cost me a lot extra. It's also extremely environmental.
Yeah.
Right? So the drive towards making things greener and solving that problem will be to get people to share the resources rather than make new ones. In other words, why should I waste? I think it's 100,000 trees a day I use, or something like that, for printing books. There is no point when I don't actually need them. So there's lots and lots of reasons why that is going to be a trend.
And two pieces of advice. One, what is the one piece of advice you would give to a major label in terms of how to move forward, and what do you think they're not doing right yet?
Well, I think that's been quite clear. I say, you have to get off the copy economy. And you have to fully embrace where things are going, and that you need to add more value than you take in the ecosystem, and then you will do just fine. It's probably going to mean downsizing to some degree in the interim, as is happening. Right? But there's so much powerful business opportunities, with upselling. You have to really embrace that different paradigm, and you also have to just get out of the way of letting people try and give them rights. Probably my second piece of advice would be, you should create some sort of standardized license, some way of saying this is the deal, this is how you can have it. Just go and try it. Without milking everybody for the biggest possible advance, which in my view is not, that's really killing the ecosystem.
And finally, what would you advise to an unsigned musician that is starting out, is out there, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of options, what would you say to them?
Well, it's clear any artist needs an audience, right? So you build your audience. That's the only way to monetize. You can't reverse it and say, before you can listen to me, you have to pay. That is a process. It doesn't work when you are well known. So, maybe eventually. You need to get leverage. So any artist, whether it's a book author or a musician or right, you have to get an audience. And the web is a fantastic tool. Get a mobile app. Make a nice website that also works on mobile, do the Tumblr thing, write a blog, do Twitter, all that stuff to promote yourself, build the audience, and then you have to be really good. And this is, of course, the bottom line. If you suck, it's not going to help you that you're blogging. So I think the bottom line is those two things. You have to really be good, you have to be different, and then you have to build the audience, and then the money will definitely come out of that. You can't help making money when you have an audience.
Yeah. Well, Gerd, it was great talking to you, and a great way to end meeting for me because I'm flying out tonight.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming by.